Here is my go at setting up the Durston X-Dome using the trekking poles first technique. It's something I decided to try because I want to avoid breaking my tent poles when I'm setting up the tent in extremely windy conditions and a harsh environment where there's just no way to find shelter. That is super rare and not something I intend to do, but still I think the practice is good, and I also decided to make a small movie from it, which is nothing I've ever done before, but I thought that someone might be interested in seeing how it is to do this. And this is the first take and my first try of setting up the tent with this technique. But I think it went pretty well. I didn't know whether to go with the peak guy lines here or stake out the tent with using the doors only to secure the trekking poles. But I think that this was a really good solution. So now the tent is secured with 6 stakes, and I'm now inserting the tent poles. The tent poles are modified by me. I cut them down 5 centimeters on each end in order to reduce the 10 centimeter gap from the outer to the ground to a 5 centimeter gap. I chatted to Dan about this prior to modifying the tent, and he said that they have done some testing with between 3 and 5 centimeters shorter poles, and he was a bit worried that 5 centimeters might affect the inner tent's tension, but I haven't noticed any of it. The inner tent is right where it should be. It's actually riding perfectly on the ground, as compared to prior where it was riding a bit high. So I think now it actually adds a bit less tension to the outer, which I think is great. Um, this lower tent will help me reduce spin drift. I'm gonna avoid the turbulences inside the tent that I have experienced that were quite uncomfortable in windy conditions, especially close to the ocean, where I noticed that it brought down the temperature in the tent, and I wasn't able to retain my heat as I'm used to using my quilt. As you can see here, the inner tent is still exactly where it should be and looks really nice. The tension on all the lines is as it should be. Another modification I decided to do was to go for a lower guy out point on the tent, just attaching an extra cord, as you can see here. So I'm using Dan's first guy out point, but I also added the second one. This second one will come as a standard guy out point in the tent shipped in April, as far as I'm aware. But the first batch didn't, so here's my modification of it. I think this works really well, and I'm still only using one groundhog to secure the guy out. So I think this was really not adding a lot of weight, maybe a few grams for each guy line. That will significantly increase stability for the tent.